Welcome back to part 2 of the making of the F14. Today we'll be looking at LUA and stuff like that. What? Alright, so this is the F14, finished, completed, done, and ready to be launched on the workshop. However, we are holding off until we have the final video done, which is going to be the tour and release video, which should be next week sometime. But today I just wanted to show you some of the LUA and how I developed the screens to be put into the F14, which I didn't do it inside of this plane. So let's get that loaded up. Alright, so this is the test bed. And so the test bed was set up originally to set up for the missiles and test them. And we also have our connections to the cart here. And we have, of course, our wing setup, our mock-up of the cockpit, our landing gear. And what we do is we go ahead and we spread out all of our chips, and that's our time zone, and all of our chips so that we can easily see what we're connecting to what. Because since Stormworks has yet to have some kind of grouping system or filtering system or layering system for nodes and all the wiring, it's easier to have things spread out so you can see what's connected to what. Okay, so what I did is I went ahead and set this all up, spread things out, kind of got things where I could test them. And if we turn this button on, this turns on our batteries, and we can see the cockpit is set up. Now this is an older version, so most of this probably doesn't work. So then what I do is I set up a large screen, and I have my 1x1 block set up, and then I'll set variables that I can see what's going on. So the gear currently equals false. We've got the engine on equals false. LGB false. I don't know what that is. Left something maybe. We got RPS, and we got ST is unsafe. And then I'll switch between these as I'm developing, and it makes it a lot easier. What else is good to know? Another good thing to do is, I don't have one of these right now, but sometimes I'll have multiple big monitors hooked up, and that's because sometimes a piece of code doesn't actually write anything to a screen, as far as like you're not doing any kind of display, but you're still processing data. Sometimes if you have an error, you won't know that there's an error, it just won't work. So I'll hook up another monitor, and if there's a problem, it'll show a blue screen. So that's always good to have if you're developing microchips, microcontrollers, is have a screen hooked up if you're doing any kind of like LUA code, so that if there's a problem, it will show a blue screen and you know there's an error, and that helps a lot. All right, let's jump to the LUA script really quick. All right, so here is Edit Plus. You can download this for free, and if we just open up this little window here, you can see I have a lot of different scripts. I have AOA, gear, flare, chaff, radio, radar, wing sweep, missile system, and so on. So what I usually do, and this is not a good example, let's find another example. I'll usually comment quite a bit. I think maybe digital throttle? Yeah, so digital throttle has a lot of comments, and so that's actually commented out. But I will give descriptions of the different variables, the different sections, and what's nice about this is I can do it all here in Edit Plus, put all my comments that I want, so that if I have to come back to this code, I can remember. And so then I'll copy this code, and I'll open up my LUA minifier. So what you can do to find it is I just type in LUA minifier, and it usually is on the top for me. And I'll go over here, and then this is usually empty like that. Go ahead and paste in all our nice code with all the comments, and it will remove the comments, compress all the line spacing, and then after I get from 8,000 bytes to 3,000 bytes roughly. And so it's compressed it by 61%. And so we can go ahead and grab this, and then we can go back into Stormworks. So then we just grab our LUA block, come in here, paste it in, it's all nicely compressed. And I usually put like a date and a name so I can see what this is, because you can't really read this too well. And that is it. So most of the scripts are compressed like this just because they're so big, and I comment a lot inside of the Edit Plus, which helps a lot. Speaking of comments, someone left me a comment which was really helpful. And if we look at this, you can see that I've mapped get number, set number, get boolean, set boolean, etc. draw commands all into these variables. So I've got IGN, and if we look at IGN and scroll down, you can see IGN now is IGN channel 3, IGN channel 4, and so that saves you a lot of space. And thank you whoever commented that in my post, because I can't remember who it was, but that was a big save because I was running out of room. And once I could do that, especially for all my draw commands. So for example, the chief background has a lot of draw rectangles. And you can see I've got them all DRFs. So that was really helpful just to compress and save space. So yes, thank you very much whoever commented on that, because that was helpful. Another thing I might want to do is if you're interested in any of the displays, let me know and I can release them as a standalone. But this is something I want to share with you, and it was really helpful. So this function right here takes in a range from say 0 to 100, and then it maps it to whatever you want it to do. So the best example would be to go back over here and take a look at the EID. So the EID maps the RPMs. So we've got 0 to I think 11,000 or 10,000 RPMs, and so that range is huge. And for you to display it on here, what you do is you use that function to pass the 0 to 10,000 RPMs in, and then remap it from 0 to I guess 30 pixels or whatever it is. And so what you can do is you can do that with everything. So the EGT, the exhaust gas, might be from 0 to 50, and you just map that from 0 to 50 to 0 to 30 pixels, and so on. So that came in handy with, you know, our wing sweep, our AOA, which is actually a pitch indicator, not an AOA, but you know, I just kind of worked with it there, as well as our throttle sliders. So really handy little function. I'll share that with you if you're interested. Let me know in the comments below. And any of these screens that you find interesting, like for example, not this guy, but if we go ahead and let's just connect that. If we look at this, we have a bingo fuel indicator, and what we can do is we can go ahead and set our bingo fuel to, you know, 1,000 pounds, like that, and then we go back to our fuel, and so we have 15,000 pounds of fuel, and then bingo fuel is set to 1,000, and if we go dry, it'll start doing alarms and stuff like that. But if these are screens that you think you're interested in using on your own planes, let me know and I'll have to repackage them, because if we look at the F14, which is probably important to look at, is let's get closer here before we do that mode. We have a central data center set up here kind of thing. So the F14 data hub is taking in the fuel, the RPS, the altitude, the speed, and I think the time of day. And what we do is with composite, we spread it around to the other components. So for example, the wing sweep takes in the data for speed, and based on the speed, if it's in auto mode, well, let's go here, auto mode, the wings will sweep back or forward, as well as we have the wings setting out its status to the lighting system, which if the wings are forward, these lights here are on, but if the wings sweep back, these lights here on the gloves are on. And of course we have the glove vanes, which are, you know, based on speed as well, so on the F14A. So yeah, so there's a lot of stuff going on here where it's passing data between. So in order for me to release like a screen, I'm gonna have to go ahead and repackage it and clean it up. It's also doing time of day. So if we go back outside here, we can look at what I did. Okay, so I should probably explain the screens. I didn't do that yet. So the original idea was to make the screens a giant screen and then break down the controls and make it kind of look like an old school video game where you had like a flat panel that was the artwork. So unfortunately, I ended up using different screens or different little monitors one by one and not using the screen, because the only way to get a screen like this in the front was to turn it sideways, and my brain was going to hurt if I had to write all this code in in a rotated axis. It would probably not be that hard, but in my brain I was like, no, I'm not going to deal with trying to map out the different locations on one screen. So I didn't do it for that screen, but for the Rio, of course, we have a nice LUA based artwork here. Oh, that's something we should talk about. Okay, we'll do that next, but first let's do this. So what I wanted to show you was that the time of day is tracked. So if we go into time of day here and watch the monitor. Okay, so I wanted this to be not monitors. I wanted this to be, what do you want to call it? Like regular cockpit screens or cockpit panels. And so at nighttime, you can see everything gets dark because the monitors naturally try to, you know, be monitors and be bright like this guy. But we didn't want that. So what I did is I remapped this to get darker. And if we turn on our cockpit lighting, of course, we get the nice red monitors. It doesn't look like I finished this one. Oh, well, I'll have to get that one done. But yeah, so it's watching the time, and then your cockpit is lit up based on time of day. So another tip I wanted to give you was drawing with Lua. So I went through, I don't know, a couple days worth of testing different things. So usually I would use the pony or the penguin image to Lua converter, and I would bring in an image to that program, and it would convert it to the graphic you see here. However, when I tested this, I don't know if you can see this, if I come over here, it would raise the milliseconds from 9 milliseconds to 20 milliseconds. So it would slow down the game so that if I jump up and down, I was on the moon. See, I'm pretty good. So if we come back over here, we've got all the Lua screens here, plus these two that will turn on. And then we have this giant one with this graphic and all of these little guys right here. So after testing with the image to Lua converters, I found out that it was best to go ahead and draw all of this by hand. So if we go back to the Edit Plus, you'll see, what is this that we're in? We're in the EID. These are all of the EID with the exhaust, the RPMs, all done with the triangles. See, EIG ticks, which are the little lines, and yeah, it's all manually done. So what I would do is I would go into Photoshop. Let me grab that up here. So, all right, so here's the EID in Photoshop. And what I did is I would draw all my rectangle lines here. So I would draw from X0 to Y0, which would be right here. And then I would draw 3 width and 1 height. And that would be my first line. And so I did all of this inside of here, as you can see. Well, I don't know where that is at, but it's probably at the top somewhere. So like, okay, so yeah, so from X0 to Y0, 3 across, 1 down, and that would be, of course, this line right here. And so I would do that, for each row, all of these ticks, and that would generate all of this handwritten code that would execute relatively fast considering how many draws I'm doing compared to the image converters. So if you're going to do any kind of fancy graphics, I would suggest you do it by hand, even though it's slow, and you're going to get better performance. The image converters they're just really laggy. I think it's the function calls that make it laggy, and this is just directly drawing to the screen. So yep, that is one thing I wanted to share with you. Well, I think that's all for the day. If you have any questions or you have anything that you want me to... Oh, the plane moved. If you have anything you want me to share with you as far as like code or screens, let me know, because I will have to repackage those to get them to work for you because of all of the functions that are running in and out of them. So that's it for today. If you haven't done so already, go hit the bell so it goes ding dong when I upload a video. And if you have subscribed, please consider doing so. And I will see you on the next one, part 3.
I'll make another video. Alright, bye!